This video will describe morphophonemic rules that have multiple environments. But first I'd like to show you something. Suppose we have a stem like walk, and let's say you need multiple suffixes to be added to that stem. You should write the rule that adds the first suffix first. And then if you need any morphophonemic rules that apply to that suffix, those morphophonemic rules should follow the rule that adds the suffix. And then once this suffix is in its final form, then you can write another rule that will add another suffix. And if you need morphophonemic rules that apply to the second suffix, then those rules should follow the rule that adds the suffix. And once suffix number 2 is in good shape, then you can add another rule that adds the third suffix. And if you need morphophonemic rules that apply to that suffix, then they should follow the rule that adds the suffix. For example, once you've added suffix number 3, any morphophonemic rules that follow that rule will only see this morpheme boundary. All of this will be considered the stem. So walk plus suffix 1, suffix 2, that will be the stem. And this new suffix, the latest suffix, that will be the suffix that the morphophonemic rule applies to. Okay? So, in our previous video, we added one infix EA, and then we wrote a couple of morphophonemic rules that apply to that infix. To illustrate what I'm talking about now, let's add another rule that will add a suffix. Let's say add the past tense suffix ed. So this will be, it's a simple rule because it adds just one affix. It'll be a suffix. The features will be past. And remember, as I mentioned in a previous video, we always use target tense and form. We don't use time. That was in an earlier video. I won't discuss that again. But we use this value here. The past tense suffix is ed. We'll say past tense. We'll say past tense. So now when we run this sentence, so now we see a past tense morpheme on here. Now let's write morphophonemic rules that apply to that suffix. So we can click here. Okay, right now our stem ends with R. This will be a morphophonemic rule. It will be applied to a suffix. We need to specify the included suffix. There's only one, past tense. Okay, the stem doesn't change. Our stem ends with R. And again, we need to be careful. We don't want to say the entire suffix changes. If you say the entire suffix changes, then you need to enter the entire suffix. Let's say the beginning of the suffix changes. Then we only need to enter the beginning of the suffix. Let's change E to an A. Okay? So now when we do this, instead of ED, we have AD. Now I want to show you a few things. You can add multiple environments here. For example, you can say, suppose if your stem ends with L, W, R, or Y, if any of those 4 consonants, you can say, specify with phonetic features, and then here specify vowel or consonant or something. But suppose if your stem ends with L, W, R, or Y, then change the E to an A. So now if we do this, the ED still changes to AD. Let's make another change. You can also specify multiple new suffixes. Let's say if the stem ends with L, we want to change the E to an AA. If the stem ends with a W, change the E to a BB. I'm just making this up. If the stem ends with R, change it to CC. And if it ends with Y, change it to DD. So in our case, the stem ends with R. So we're going to see a CC. The E will be changed to CC. As long as you keep the number of inputs and the number of outputs the same, then the software will make the right change. So we're going to see the E change to a CC. So we get CC D. And one more thing, a couple more things still. If you want to say parenthesis, so now it will insert CC. So it won't change the E, we'll still have the E. So now it inserted CC. One more thing. We can also say, if the stem changes, we can also specify multiple new ends of the stem. Let's say if the stem ends in L, and then change it to LL. If the stem ends in W, change it to WW, RR, YY. So now we'll see, okay, our stem ends with R, so it'll be changed to RR, and we'll insert CC. So we see RR and CC is inserted. It's still part of the past tense suffix. And over here, I mentioned that you need to write your rules in a certain order. Here, okay, the rules are executed from top to bottom. And if you ever add a new rule, but you need to move it, you can just drag them up and down the tree. Now that doesn't make any sense, because this is a morphophonemic rule that applies to an affix that will be added here. So that doesn't make any sense. You need to keep your rules in the proper order, but when you need to reorder them, you can just drag them up and down the tree.